Today we're breaking down the NFC East. Big time division in football. Some might say even the best division in football.
Some.
Hello and welcome back to the Beerly Football Podcast. It's about football but Beerly. I'm your host, Zachary Smith. Joining me as always are my two very good friends, Trevor Scott, Kerry Dempsey. Let me get my hand in frame. How we doing tonight, boys?
Very good. Glad to be back. Glad to talk about this division. I remember at the beginning of last year, we were calling it the NFC Least.
I know.
Because how bad we thought it turned out being pretty entertaining, especially with the Eagles. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I miss the days when it was the laughing stock in the NFL. Now it's at least the NFC goes to the NFC East.
I think we're actually just right under 100 days till NFL football, 99 or 98 or something.
Exactly 100 today.
Actually start the countdown.
It's exactly 100 today.
Oh, okay.
So when this comes out, you can count it. 99.
Yeah.
But
in honor of 100 days, I don't know if you saw the post today of Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask throwing in practice today. How hyped are you for that?
Oh, no. I didn't see that. I'll have to check that out after the podcast is over. But...
It was Baker wildly overthrowing his receivers. It was great.
And Trask was underthrowing them or what?
They both just sucked. It's going to be a long year, Taylor, sadly.
I feel like Baker's got to, he plays. At least I feel like he'll settle into a groove, though, eventually.
Hopefully.
yeah, maybe. Well, this is also a beer podcast, so what are we drinking tonight? I'm going to start with Kerry this time. I normally start with Trevor.
I actually have double beers tonight. I'll start out with my second one first. I got a Bell's Lighthearted Ale, a low-calorie IPA. I figured pretty light, so I tried something else also. I got a Oberon Ale. It is a American wheat ale.
I believe it's pronounced Oberon. But
Oberon, close
I
enough.
thought it was ovarian.
Ooh, my power just went
that's
out
the
for a
cancer.
Oh.
If I do die tonight, my power just flickered and could go out, but hopefully I'll be here.
Alrighty. Trevor, what are you having?
I actually got a double beer as well, but I'm going to start with my first beer like a normal human. I think I had this back in October. Just dug it out of the back of the fridge. It's a Shipyard Pumpkinhead. Seems pretty October-y. Seems pretty Halloween-y. I think the last time I had it, I really hated it. So this is kind of like an insurance beer. We got the Sol Cerveza to back it up just in case, Justin Herbert doesn't do the job. We got Max Duggan right here. Let's double fist it, baby.
Alrighty, real quick, before I show you guys my beers that I have tonight, because I am triple beering it tonight.
Well. Oh, I also have some peanuts.
Gotta have a bottle opener. Sorry it wasn't ready. But, alright, so. Sweet. So, from Free State of Smith Brewing Company, this is the brewing company my mom has started. I have a cranberry apple cider here. I have a Scottish ale here. I'm going to start with a Scottish ale because I've had the cranberry apple cider before.
I like it.
Let's see how she did on these.
Mama Smith for the win.
It's good stuff. It's really good
She
stuff.
are the Smiths planning on starting their own country at some point?
Yeah, it's already actually started. It's in Tennessee.
Just branched off from the U.S. I can easily see that, 100%.
Yep.
That would be awesome.
I'd live there. Who wouldn't?
I don't know. I feel like they'd make you do some crazy stuff to get in.
No, I don't think so.
What do they call that? Hazing? I feel like Zane would have some...
Probably.
Does everyone carry? Oh, yeah. Everyone said what they were drinking.
Yeah, everyone
All right.
said what they were drinking.
We ready to talk some football then?
Let's talk some football, Kerry.
So we do have our first guest tonight. Let me bring him in. We're going to start with the Giants.
Guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Good to have you back, Lance.
absolutely.
Yeah, so you were here last offseason to talk about the Giants, just in case we got some new listeners since then. Where can the people find you?
Well, They can find me on Twitter. I'm at Lance Medow. One word, last name is Medow, and I pretty much promote all my work on social media. So I would say that's the best game plan. I'm also obviously on a variety of different Sirius XM channels as well, in addition to my work with the Giants.
Awesome. Sounds good. I know a lot of these new cars you get like 60 days free Sirius XM. So, if you buy a new car, tune into Lance. But, yeah, we appreciate having you back. Looking forward to talking about some Giants. I know Kerry and Zach, big fans of Daniel Jones, big fans of the Giants, Brian Daboll, everything they got going on there. This last season, from your perspective, how did that all shake out? Were you happy with the result, or?
Well, I think he benefited from the arrival of Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka because I think that the coaching made an ultimate difference for Daniel Jones. If you noticed, his turnovers went down, and ball security was a big issue in the early stages of his career. Now, I think part of that was him trying to do too much, but also keep in mind, he had a revolving door of coordinators his first few seasons. So this is going to be now year 2 where he has the same head coach and he has the same offensive coordinator. You could argue maybe the best thing that happened to the Giants this offseason, while I'm sure everybody wants to look at the personnel and the draft, they retained both of their coordinators in Mike Kafka and Wink Martindale. And that, to me, is a huge storyline because that has not been the case, stability for the Giants. They've normally had something change. So you look back at last season, I think Daniel Jones fully capitalized on what Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka were asking him to do, and he was able to come to the realization, I don't have to shoulder the load. I don't have to throw home run passes down the field. I mean, if you notice, the scheme was built around throw the ball, short yardage, get the ball out of your hands, let your receivers and your personnel do a lot of the heavy lifting. Now, I think it's going to be interesting, guys, to see whether or not they open up the playbook a little bit more because of some of the changes at the receiving core, the arrival of Darren Waller, and there's a plus and minus there, right? If you start throwing the ball deep down the field, you're putting it more in harm's way. Do the turnovers stay at the level they were last season? That's going to be very interesting to watch. But I think the results were very encouraging because he was able to go out, A, stay healthy, B, protect the football, and play into the strengths of the system. And that's why I think it all came together.
Right. Yeah, he had, probably his best year in a while. I mean, he finished off the year playing some solid football, some consistent football, which, had a lot of people ranking him, maybe just outside the top 10 in that top 15 range. And, it sounds like, you think the stability's here. There's some brought-in weapons. You think we see another jump? And if we do, what does that jump look like? Is he going to jump into the top 10? Is he going to shake it up? Top 6, top 7? What do you think this year is going to look like for him?
Well, I should preface my statements by saying I couldn't care less about quarterback rankings. It's, to me, a very silly exercise. I mean, at the end of the day, guys, all that matters is winning. That's all that matters. Yeah. What you do to help your team and win. We could sit here. You could have your own rankings. I could have my own rankings. Doesn't make a difference. It's similar to basketball. Not to get off topic, I'm a huge Jordan guy. All I care about is who's number 1. I don't care about who's number 2. I don't care about who's number 3. So where Daniel Jones is on the pedestal of quarterbacks to me is irrelevant. All that matters is he continues to show consistency, and it helps translate to the Giants winning football games. If that's not accomplished, does it really matter at the end of the day whether somebody has him 7th or somebody has him 8th on the list? Not to mention also, the division overall has, I think, a lot of quality talent. Jalen Hurts took a significant step forward. Dak Prescott is the seasoned veteran, the seasoned pro. You could argue Daniel Jones is the 3rd best quarterback in the division. I don't think that's a stretch at all, based on track record, based on resume. So with that being said, clearly I think he has a lot to prove within the division before we even talk about is he top 10 in the NFL. And I don't think the Giants are worried about where he looks at himself with respect to other quarterbacks in the league. I think they care about, can he help them solve the division? Because if you guys go back and look, the Giants have not solved the NFC East riddle. They've struggled against the Cowboys. They've struggled against the Eagles. They tied with Washington, and they beat Washington. You want to solidify a playoff spot, you need to handle your business within the division. So I think if we're looking at Daniel Jones within the lens, guys, of quarterback rankings, not to avoid the question, I think it's very interesting to see what he does against his divisional foes going head-to-head with some of those other quarterbacks I mentioned.
You think
Right,
it's
yeah. Go ahead,
you think
Jay.
it's the biggest issue that a lot of Giants fans wanted them to go out and get a big wide receiver? Obviously, Isaiah Hodgins, had a big year, and the big guy they brought in was Waller too, but they didn't get that go-to number one wide receiver. And you look at other teams in the NFC East. Obviously, Eagles have Smith, Brown, Cowboys have Lamb, and brought in Cooks as well.
Yeah.
The Commanders have Terry McLaurin. Like, they all have a go-to wide receiver one. Think it's going to hold Daniel Jones back that he doesn't have that go-to guy to throw to?
I'm not saying the Giants are the Kansas City Chiefs, guys, so don't misinterpret my words, but I think the Giants are going to model it after Kansas City. And if you look at Kansas City, right, Travis Kelce's the number one guy, especially with Tyreek Hill no longer there. No disrespect to any of the other wide receivers. Darren Waller is capable of being the Travis Kelce of the Giants. If he stays healthy, of course. He can be a 1,000-yard guy. And I think what the Giants said to themselves is, we can go out, give up a mid-round pick for Darren Waller. Okay, we can maximize his value, and he can be our number one guy. I think you're going to see Mike Kafka, remember, where'd he come from? Came from working under Andy Reid in Kansas City, where Travis Kelce was the guy. I think they're going to try to model it around that, where, to answer your question, Waller, I think, can be the number one guy.
Okay.
But you want to protect yourself in case he doesn't hold up because he's had some injuries over the last 2 seasons. And I also think it's going to be more piecemeal because, as you mentioned, Dallas and Philadelphia have more substance and they're top-heavy in terms of the receiving core. But the Giants actually sneakily have a lot of volume at the wide receiver position, meaning one game it could be Isaiah Hodgins. Another game it could be Wan'Dale Robinson, who showed some flashes before he went down. They brought in Paris Campbell, who had a breakout year with Indianapolis. Jamison Crowder, more of a special teamer. We'll see if Sterling Shepard can solidify a spot. Darius Slayton. I could sit here and name you about 7 or 8 wide receivers on the roster. I'm not trying to tell you that they're wowing everybody, and good luck trying to figure out the Giants from a fantasy perspective, by the way. But from a realistic standpoint, I think they could get away with Waller's the number one guy. We spread the wealth with the rest of the group and still manage to have success. And also, we didn't even mention Saquon Barkley. So it can happen, but Waller has to stay healthy and be available for 16 to 17 games.
And Kenny Galladay is finally gone, so that's not going to hurt them either.
Well, the Galladay experiment, to your point, did not work out. And I don't think they necessarily have a big vertical 50-50 winner that Galladay was supposed to be. But, once again, it didn't work out with Galladay. I don't think it's going to hold them back because they don't necessarily have a guy who they can throw jump balls to. I think they have some vertical speed now, which they didn't necessarily have a lot of. And let's face it, Waller's big enough. I mean, he's 6'6". You could throw balls up to him in the red zone, and he should be able to finish for touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned Saquon Barkley, too. What are your thoughts on that situation right now? I know that's been a big thing for the Giants this offseason, whether he can get a contract. Obviously, they extended Daniel Jones. Barkley got the franchise. How do you see that handling out?
Well, they have until July 17th. That's the deadline. So we've got about a month and a half. I wouldn't be surprised if perhaps something does work out. It doesn't seem like both sides are any closer than they are. I think getting back to your point, Barkley's camp, I think what had happened is they had anticipated that maybe things weren't going to go smoothly with Daniel Jones and the Giants, and they would have had to use the franchise tag on Daniel Jones, and then Barkley would have had an opportunity to test the market. But he didn't even get to test the market, right? Because the Giants wound up tagging him because they got a deal done long-term with Daniel Jones at the last second. But here's the thing. Saquon could easily play this season out on the tag, guys. And then the Giants could ultimately tag him again next year, too. Let's not forget about that. I don't think that Saquon is going to pull a Le'Veon Bell where he's going to sacrifice guaranteed money for an entire season, still very much in the prime of his career, coming off one of his best seasons when he was fully healthy and got through the year. That's not happening. So does that mean the Giants have leverage? Well, absolutely they have the leverage because they put the tag on him. He can't negotiate with other teams. And like I said, I don't think he's turning down a fully guaranteed deal. So let's say hypothetically they don't get a long-term deal done. He'll show up for the start of training camp or midway through training camp, because remember, once you sign the tag, you can no longer hold out. And I think he'll be good to go for the beginning of the season. The bottom line is Saquon Barkley is going to be in a Giants uniform in 2023.
Yeah.
Whether it's a long-term deal or he's simply playing on the tag. I don't think that's a concern at all.
I don't want to backtrack too much, but I meant to squeeze it in there when you guys were talking about wide receiver ones. Over this past offseason, were you on one side of the fence or the other about bringing back OBJ, maybe having him as that wide receiver one?
I think that was a product of Giants fans wanting to reminisce and live in the past.
Yeah.
So it's
Feels
funny
good.
you phrased it backtracking. I think that was a very fitting label for the question with respect to Odell Beckham.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything, guys, against Odell Beckham. When he was here with the Giants, he was extremely productive, and I think way too much was made out of his antics, for the lack of a better phrase. If you remember, he proposed to the kicking net, and he was very emotional. The one thing I will criticize Odell Beckham for was what he did with Josh Norman was completely uncalled for, because he launched at him, and he was putting himself in a position to hurt himself and another player. Outside of that, I thought everything else was blown out of proportion. It's an emotional sport. We are invested in football. We're here on this podcast right now because it's sports entertainment. It's not life and death. So let's not take everything that happens on the sidelines so damn seriously. With that being said, as I get off my high horse and return to the topic at hand, the bottom line is I don't think Odell Beckham is a true number one wide receiver at this point in his career. So that's the true reason why, if you're the Giants, it would have been nice. It would have been a great narrative. Fans would have gotten sentimental. But the Giants, they needed somebody that they could rely on, could hold up in the health department and produce. And I don't think Odell Beckham would have check marks in both of those departments. I think he would have been a nice complementary weapon. But if you're going into a season thinking Odell is going to be the savior, he's going to do all the heavy lifting, I don't think that's a very wise game plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Has there been a lot of talk about Giants fans about DeAndre Hopkins? I know he was just released and I haven't seen Giants mentioned among landing spots for him lately, but I think that's a possibility at all, or
it's an intriguing option. Should the Giants entertain it? I don't think they have anything to lose. It's funny because it goes back to the question that you were talking about with Kenny Golladay. Hopkins would be, the ideal replacement for Kenny Golladay, but you're assuming, obviously, he's going to produce much better than Golladay, where you have the vertical 50-50 winner and another guy that Daniel Jones can utilize to target in the red zone or deep down the field. Is there room for DeAndre Hopkins? Sure, because I think there's a lot of competition in all of those wide receivers that I mentioned, but from a financial standpoint, I don't think the Giants are in a position where they can offer him a lucrative deal. They don't have a wealth of salary cap space. I don't think it's worth redoing other deals to rent DeAndre Hopkins for a year, because you're not going to give him a multi-year deal. Remember, Hopkins had a $19 million salary with Arizona. It wasn't fully guaranteed, but do you really think he's going to go elsewhere and play for peanuts? I think he's going to want a respectable salary, and then the rest will be made up in terms of incentives.
Yeah.
But you're talking about if the Giants bring him in, it would have to be a heavy incentive-laced deal. And I just don't think the Giants are in a financial position to make that type of an investment. It is a guy from a need perspective, to answer your question, that I think would make sense. I just think the finances provide to be a very big challenge. And here's the other thing. I think DeAndre, at this stage in his career, year 11, he's going to be 31 during the season. It's not to say that the Giants can't be a playoff team, but I don't think the Giants are an automatic Super Bowl contender. They still have some things they need to shore up and prove. You're DeAndre. I think you're driven by this stage of my career. I want to go to a team that is close to an automatic to make the playoffs, win the division, and do damage. And Kansas City, to me, is extremely appealing from that standpoint. Buffalo, I still think, has some question marks. And I would argue Philadelphia and Dallas, at this point, may be a little bit more appetizing for Hopkins. Not that they need him.
Yeah.
Philadelphia would be nasty.
What the Giants can offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that 1, 2, 3 in Philadelphia would be nasty. Hopkins, Brown, and Smith.
Yeah.
And they got Dallas Goedert, too. Let's not forget about.
Yeah.
Right. Well, speaking of these other teams in the division, this is obviously This and the AFC North, two of the most emotional historical divisions ever. Just emotions running high. What team do you dislike the most in this division, and why is it the Dallas Cowboys?
You're trying to put words in my mouth. Is that how that question was prefaced?
That's
Let me
how
make
that
this
went.
clear. And this has been a question that's been brought up multiple times to me. You guys have to understand, and I'm not maneuvering around the question in all seriousness. Now, I do national work for SiriusXM NFL Radio, so I'm invested in the league. Even though I do cover the Giants, I have a rooting interest in all 32 teams because I'm covering all of their storylines. So I don't get so caught up in the rivalries and the bitterness from the fan standpoint. And I really try to take myself outside of being a fan. I'm not trying to get all high horse journalism-esque with you, but I mean, the truth is, I don't look at it so much through that lens. I will tell you this, and this is how I can best answer the question. If you ask a diehard Giants fan, who do they dislike most? It's absolutely Philadelphia, without any hesitation. It's Philadelphia because of the track record of the fan base, okay? I don't need to convince you guys. You go into Philadelphia, you better put your big boy pants on because it may not be a very fun and welcoming experience. And it's the same thing if Eagles fans even visit MetLife Stadium. Then I would put Dallas number 2. And I think that has to do with the whole America's team label and the fact that, let's face it, the Cowboys have had a really good record against the Giants. The Giants have not beaten the Cowboys, by the way, with Dak Prescott as their starting quarterback since his rookie year in 2016.
Wow.
That's great.
So, that tells you all you need to know. And, I mean, they haven't beaten the Eagles in forever, no matter who the quarterback has been. And then Washington, to me, is 4th. And the reason being is, and this is why I was going down that road, Washington has not had an overwhelming amount of success against the Giants. And you know how fans operate. Yeah. If your team loses to an opponent, you're going to dislike them further. But Philly is far more personal than anything else. And I think that's because of, once again, the rowdy fans and how dominant the Eagles have been against the Giants. So circling back to me, I don't think any differently of either one of those fan bases because, once again, you play these teams twice a year. You study these opponents. To me, it's all blurry. It's no different from one year versus the other. And I know that's the boring answer, but you know what, guys? Unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with me.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, I got one more question for you. Giants draft this year was really high regarded. Everybody seemed to give them high grades. You have any thoughts on their draft class, grade or anything you got them?
Well, I think it was a very productive draft. I mean, once again, as far as grades go, at the end of the day, guys, we need to see these players get on the field.
Yeah.
I know everybody wants to crown the draft classes, but, can we see what Deonte Banks at corner can do in year 1? Can we see what Jalen Hyatt can do? And that's another wide receiver, by the way, I did not bring up in our earlier conversation. He's another vertical threat that I think will help perhaps Daniel Jones try to branch out a little bit more in terms of the deep throws. John Michael Schmitz gives them a must-starting center. Because
absolutely fantastic pick.
Yeah, out of the Big Ten. Remember, keep in mind, Nick Gates, they lost to Washington, and John Feliciano, their starting center, he went to San Francisco. So that was huge need before we even talk about the player. But, John Michael Schmitz is a player that had 6 years in college, has a lot of starting experience, and comes from a team that ran the football down the throats of the opposition.
Yeah.
So he likes to get down and dirty. I think those 3 picks that I just mentioned, those were their top 3 picks. All of them, I thought, met 2 things. They met need, but they also added up in terms of value. All 3 of those guys, and this is where the grade conversation comes back in, all of those players were speculated to go to the Giants with their first-round pick. So to wind up getting them with your first 3, right? I mean, I would say that's a huge win from that standpoint. Then they got Eric Gray, a running back out of Oklahoma, who I think will prove to be a complementary piece this year, and maybe 2 years down the road, he could play a bigger role. I mean, the appeal of him is he caught the ball out of the backfield. He wasn't just a runner, and I think they need somebody that could spell Saquon Barkley a little bit. And then as far as the rest of the draft class, I think, special teams contributors, some depth on the defensive backfield front. But the first 3 guys, I think, could come in year 1, play a lot of snaps, make quite the impact because they're coming in at positions where, they need some playmakers. So I'm with you. I think the Giants draft class got some positive feedback from a national standpoint, rightfully so, because I think it added up beautifully with value and need.
Okay.
And I got one more question for you, and this might be the most important question we ask today.
You saved the best for last.
Yeah.
That's it.
If you remember the
I got one more thing, bro.
No, that's not the
So
question.
you're teasing me now. Okay.
That's not the question. The question is, what's your favorite nickname for Daniel Jones?
My favorite nickname for Daniel Jones. Well, I think we got to go with the most popular one, Danny Dimes.
Danny Dimes? Okay.
Now, given the fact that I think he's lived up to those expectations for the most part in terms of his efficiency, at least based on last season.
Yeah.
Now, maybe he takes it to another level, as I mentioned this year, if they really open up the playbook and have him throw a little bit deeper down the field because of some of the personnel around him. But I think Danny Dimes is the most fitting. I'm a big alliteration fan, so that's another reason why I like the Danny Dimes nickname.
Okay.
It flows and it rolls right off your tongue beautifully.
My last one for you, kind of stepping out of the division, but New York. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. What do you think? What do you think of that? You think best team in New York? Huh?
Well, the Jets have a fantastic defense. Can't take that away from them, right? I mean, we're talking about a top 10 unit, no matter what category you want to look at it at, and that unit is coming back. You know, my issue with the Jets last season, they played a number of close games. They were very similar to the Denver Broncos, guys, where if you go back, they were competitive, and mainly because of the defense. The problem is you had no idea what the offense was going to do, and the offense became a liability. So even if Aaron Rodgers is not going to come in and throw for 4 or 5 touchdowns a game, he's still a huge upgrade over what they were working with.
Yeah.
The revolving door last season. And I do think some of those games where they lost 23-20, 20-17, does Aaron help them in that department? 100%.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I mean, he's got a good defense to lean on, so he's not going to have to throw 4 to 5 touchdowns a game. To me, my biggest concern is the offensive line. I don't think enough people are talking about the Jets' offensive line. Mekhi Becton has been banged up. We'll see what happens with Elijah Vera-Tucker. You know, here's another guy that also has dealt with some injuries. You know, that is far from a finished product. And going back to his seasons in Green Bay, Aaron had years where he was, sacked a lot.
Yeah.
And that took a toll on him. And remember, we've had the clavicle injuries that we've had to deal with. So do I think the Jets can contend? 100%. I don't think they're a lock to win the AFC East. But I think getting a wild card, that shouldn't be asking for a lot because, Aaron is still a top-tier quarterback. As far as the best team in New York, the Giants, they're coming off a really good season. I wonder, my big question for the Giants was last season a product of the schedule and the caliber of the opposition? Because the schedule is much tougher this year.
Yeah.
And was it also a product of, once again, a little bit of the unknown with the Giants, right?
Yeah.
We didn't see Wink Martindale. We didn't see Dable and Kafka. Now teams have more film on the Giants. What happens in year 2? How does that game of chess play out? So I think there's a little bit more known about the Giants than there is with the Jets because Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers, we haven't seen them operate with the Green Bay side of things. So, that's what adds a little bit of perhaps intrigue surrounding the Jets, maybe more so than the Giants this year.
Gotcha. And final record prediction for the Giants this season. What you got about? It's a little early, but
yeah, you guys are really putting me on the spot. Well, I will say this. Can the Giants get back to where they were last season? Meaning, can 9-7-1 be realistic? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a stretch. Here's the thing, and this goes back to my point of what I was talking about with respect to the schedule. The Giants won a lot of close games last season. And, with the way that the NFL pendulum swings, there's a fine line between winning and losing. And it is a very narrow line. And just because you win all those close games one year does not mean it carries over to the next year. And I'll give you an example. In 2016, which was the previous time the Giants made the playoffs before they made it last season, you go back and you look at that season, and they actually settled for a wild card that year because Dallas had won the division. Giants won a lot of close games. They weren't a dominant team that year.
Yeah.
he had so many key plays. I mean, I could give you an example. They played the Saints, Drew Brees and the Saints. They got a blocked kick that they returned for a score by Janoris Jenkins. That's a special teams touchdown.
Yeah.
Rashad Jennings picked up a late first down against the Bengals. They wound up winning that game by a very close affair. I mean, there were tons of those games. And you go back to last season, there were a lot of those games again.
Yeah.
Now, you have to be able to win the close games. But does it happen, guys, at the same rate that it did last season? I don't think you can guarantee that. So, before I see how this defense and this offense operates, and, we haven't gotten out to training camp, we're really jumping the gun. But once again, the talent, the continuity on both sides of the ball, I think they helped their cause with helping the run defense. I love the additions of Nacho and Ashawn Robinson joining Dexter Lawrence. There's no reason why it can't at least return to their form last season. Now, is that good enough to get a wild card spot? I don't know. We're going to have to see how the NFC plays out.
Yeah.
The NFC, remember, has lost a lot of quarterbacks, but there's no reason why the Giants should not be in wild card contention in 2023.
They just got to be happy where this team is. I mean, this was expected to be a team in a multi-year rebuild, and they made the playoffs last year. I mean, I don't think any of us thought last year when we were talking about this, Giants would have made the playoffs. I think, Zach, you had them at like 1-16 last year.
Yeah, bad call for me. That's a bad call for me. But hey, I admit when I'm wrong. I admit when I'm wrong. I get stuff wrong sometimes. Most of the time, I'm 100% accurate, but I get stuff wrong sometimes.
I mean, even if it's not this year, I think this is a Giants team that's set up pretty good for the future.
Well, I would agree with you. I think they're trending in the right direction. You got to love the impact that Brian Daboll had on the team. I talked about coordinator stability, not losing any of them. And, Daniel Jones is coming off a productive year. But life in the NFL is all about what have you done for me lately, right?
Yeah.
I say this about quarterbacks. It's not one good season. The quarterbacks that separate themselves from the rest of the pack are the ones that every time they get on the field, you know exactly what you're getting out of them.
Yep.
And Daniel Jones showed a lot last season, potential. Now he's got to do it all over again. And you hope that he benefits from the personnel around him and being in the same offense year two. So, he's got the right infrastructure. Now it's up to him and the rest of the group to fully capitalize and take advantage of that.
All right, Zach. Take it away.
All righty. So, I asked you this question last year. I asked everybody this question last year. My Jacksonville Jaguars ended up getting a playoff spot, getting a playoff win, and exceeding almost everyone's expectations last year. I think I did have them finishing 9-8. But where do you see the Jaguars this year, following a successful year with year one head coach in Jacksonville, Doug Peterson?
Well, I don't want to speak out of line, but if you did ask me the question last year, I was very high on the Jaguars last offseason. I didn't think they were going to win the division, but I thought Doug Peterson would have a tremendous impact. Now, I don't know if you went back to the archives to check my answer.
I believe you were one of the people. I believe that your exact quote is, they made the biggest upgrade out of any team this year, and it's at the head coach position. It's kind of paraphrasing, but I believe you said that.
Okay, well, I believe that would be something in the ballpark that I would say. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one, as you commended yourself too, since this is the part of the show where clearly we lay out the red carpet treatment. But in all seriousness, I was very encouraged by what happened with Jacksonville. Because, see, very similar to what I talked about with Daniel Jones, Doug Peterson had the same impact on Trevor Lawrence. You got a professional in the quarterback room. And when you put a true professional in the quarterback room who also played that position, you're going to do wonders for your quarterback.
Yeah.
I was also very happy to see Evan Ingram have a really nice season. And I was rooting for him on a personal level because obviously I got to know him from working for the team. And I thought if he could just put it all together, stay healthy, he's got the talent. And he did. So, that was really nice. And the Jaguars defense, showed some flashes here or there. So, all things look good. Here's the thing that's encouraging about Jacksonville. Indianapolis, let's see what happens with Anthony Richardson or whether or not Gardner Minshew is going to be the bridge quarterback. But the Colts offensive line took a step back. I like them keeping Gus Bradley, but time will tell. The Houston Texans, DeMeco Ryans has a lot of work to do. Also, another young quarterback. They're far from a juggernaut. And Tennessee, all of a sudden, the armor of the Titans is not as shiny, right, as it was in previous seasons. because of offensive line issues. Derrick Henry can only do so much of the heavy lifting, and their defense also had some ups and downs. So Jacksonville, I know they won the division, but it's not crazy to say the Jaguars are the team to beat in the AFC South.
Let's go.
They are 100% the team to beat. That doesn't mean they're going to duplicate their success, but right now, I would expect the Jaguars to set the tone and the standard of that division. Tennessee is the team to watch for, but they have something to prove. But Doug Peterson, he built a stable of forces there on offense and defense where I'm very excited. And here's the other guy to look out for this season, by the way. If there's anyone on that team that has so much to prove, and quite the skeptics, who I think is going to have a huge bounce-back season, it's Calvin Ridley. People forget. They acquired him, fortunately had the gambling suspension. I think based on that letter he wrote, which said an awful lot and was very eye-opening, and it was good to see him open up, I think Ridley is going to have a very productive season, assuming he can stay healthy. People forget, that's another addition to the receiving corps. So I really like the Jaguars this season being able to pick up where they left off and not show that they were simply just a flash last season.
Yeah. All right. I love that answer.
Yeah.
Love that answer.
Well, thanks for coming on, Lance. You want to just plug yourself where to find you again before you get out tonight?
Sure. Well, once again, everybody can find me on Twitter at Lance Medow, one word, last name, Medow. There is no A in my last name. That's why I continually spell it. And I promote all my work on that front. And they can catch me on SiriusXM NFL Radio, a variety of different shows I host. And then I'm on SiriusXM Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82, every Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. We talk about everything known to man in the world of sports. So those are the main projects. And I certainly appreciate you guys having me on again. I hope that you'll put my Jaguars answer in the archives again. And this time next year, we'll circle back. And hopefully I'll be able to pat myself on the back for 2 consecutive years.
There you go.
Good. All right. Good luck in the Giants this year, Lance.
You got it, guys. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.
Take care.
Thanks for coming on.
Whoops.
All right. So that was the Giants. Now it's on to the, I don't know, is it the least? Is it the most liked team or the least liked team in the NFL?
Both.
I don't even know this. We got Kyle Youmans, Dallas Cowboys TV host and reporter. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
I'm good, guys. How are y'all?
Doing
Pretty
great.
Pretty good. Glad you were able to make it. Glad you were able to talk about some Cowboys. I got a feeling me and you are going to be agreeing on some stuff tonight. But before we get into all that, where can we find you? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on DallasCowboys.com. That's where we really do the majority of our media coverage online on the Cowboys Now app, and then you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Kyle_Youmans, Youmans. So, yeah, that's really the biggest thing. I host the Talking Cowboys podcast, the Draft Show podcast, and then a couple of other TV shows throughout the season, and that's kind of the best way to find us.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Well, the Draft Show podcast, I guess we could kind of bring that up first. Were you pretty happy with the draft? I know some people were saying the Cowboys were reaching. So what do you think about the draft?
I think they went needs based more so than best player available. They probably had a couple of other higher valued prospects that they could have gone with early on, but for the most part, they filled the needs that they needed to. They checked the box at tight end. They did so in the second round with Luke Schoonmaker. They checked the box from a run stuffing defensive tackle, a position that the Cowboys have really never utilized for the most part, and at least over the last decade or so of production from the defensive line. But I think that's really the best way to put this draft is they went through and they got a little bit of everything that they needed, and they did so to make their team better. I think this is a better football team this offseason than they were last year, just based off of some of the veterans that they've added and then the needs that they addressed in the draft class.
Were you surprised they didn't go with the tight end of the first round? No, everybody was saying Michael Mayer. Everybody thought Cowboys were going to take him the end of the first round there, but they ended up going DT. Were you surprised by that, or?
Yeah, no, I think there was a little bit of a shock because Dalton Kincaid was like an early name that the Cowboys might have been interested in, but now knowing what we know after the fact, they would have never taken a Dalton Kincaid that early on. I don't think they would have, even if Buffalo would have made the pick elsewhere instead of jumping in front of the Cowboys, I think they still would have taken Mozzie Smith. They had him higher graded than even Dalton Kincaid, so
Okay.
they were pretty confident in their pick. Now, the biggest thing was they had higher tight ends on the board later in the draft. If they could have had somebody else at 58, they would have taken probably Michael Mayer or even Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta was their top-rated tight end going into the draft, so they really liked him out of Iowa. I think if let's say Mozzie Smith was off the board, I think Sam Laporta was in play there in the first round, even with maybe a Matthew Bergeron, who was an offensive guard that could have come in and played an impact as well. So I think that's really the interesting part of this draft is they really wanted a tight end because they had 3 or 4 names that they were really honed in on, and ultimately they settled on Luke Schoonmaker, and I think there's a lot of upside for Schoonmaker, especially in this offense.
All right. Well, you talking about some draft stuff, you brought up some of the veterans that they brought in over this offseason, and something that I really haven't gotten over. I think I've talked about it maybe 2 or 3 straight shows now. But the Brandon Cooks edition, I was super impressed with that, and I think that losing Zeke, and then I think this offense is going to just be a little different this year, but in a very good way. And I think having CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks together, just not even to mention Michael Gallup, but what do you think he's going to bring to the offense, and kind of bringing him in and then losing Zeke? What's that going to look like?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Zeke is the pass protection. I think you're really missing out on a big time pass protector and somebody that was able to be relied on in the backfield to have an extra blocker for Dak Prescott, and he might still be a top 5 pass protecting back in the NFL. I mean, he was exceptional at doing so. But the thing is, you're not going to get paid $90 million and be a pass blocking running back. Like, that's just not how it works in today's age of the NFL. So he needed to do a little bit more. So I think from a weaponry standpoint, this is a team that still has quite a bit of weaponry around it. Tony Pollard could take that next step. Of course, CeeDee Lamb showed an ability to be a wide receiver 1 last year. And then, like you said, the addition of Brandon Cooks, I think having Brandon Cooks in the fold is better for this offense, not only because, yes, you have another weapon to add, but I think it elevates Michael Gallup because Michael Gallup was expected to be a high-end wide receiver too, and he really wasn't that. He was somebody coming off of an injury that never really lived up to that wide receiver 2 billing. He never has had to be a wide receiver 2. He's been a 3 throughout his career. Now he can be an above-average wide receiver 3, and I think it opens up the playbook even more. So the addition for Brandon Cooks is not only great for Dak Prescott, but I think it's great for these other receivers because now they'll see more favorable matchups, and they'll see better windows to catch the football in, even early on whenever teams are trying to figure out what weapon they want to try and cover in the early going of the season.
All right, Micah Parsons, who I think most people would say, if not the best, one of the best young defensive players in the league. How high do you think his ceiling is going to be? I mean, obviously he's been insane 2 years in. Do you think he's just going to keep getting better?
Yeah, I think there's kind of there's a cohesion between him and Dan Quinn that I think is just continuing to get better. The longer that those two are together, I think the more you can see Parsons' ceiling grow. And he's done so many different things. I mean, he rushes the passer, he stays back, he can play at the second level, he can play the run, he can play sideline to sideline. I think his niche has become as a pass rusher. It's been somebody off the edge. It's been an ability to get in the backfield. So with Dan Quinn utilizing that skill set and putting him in positions to be successful, I think that 1-2 punch of defensive coordinator and young talent will continue to see him get better. Now, the sack numbers last year were just a tiny bit better. It wasn't like he set the world on fire, and he wasn't really in a defensive player of the year conversation, at least late in the year. I think this year the biggest thing is you want to see consistency all the way through because he came out of the gates hot, was in that conversation in the early going, and then kind of fizzled out at the end. Still made an impact, don't get me wrong, and you could see it on the film, and teams really just had to go at him, double teams, and take his legs out from underneath him. There were multiple ways to defend him. I think if he can find a way around that and continue to broaden his arsenal of pass rush moves and continue to widen his skill set, I think he really has an opportunity to be one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in the NFL, if he continues on the same trajectory.
He's hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, with him leading this defense, this is a really complete team if the offense can play consistently. Trayvon Diggs, he's right around the corner from getting a new deal. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the thing that this team has struggled with in the past has been getting deals done ahead of time. And a big reason for that is teams like players specifically like to use the brand as leverage. I mean, they want to play well for the Cowboys because then you're going to get paid well like a Cowboy. And Dak had it happen. Amari Cooper had it happen. Ezekiel Elliott had it happen. They've leveraged their success with the star on the side of their helmet for bigger deals, and it goes that way quite a bit. So I think Trayvon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons are the next three bang, bang, bang that you're going to have that way. Now, the Cowboys have the possibility and have already accepted the fifth-year option for CeeDee Lamb. They don't have that sort of option for Trayvon Diggs. So this is a contract year for him. With the way that he started his career as kind of a liability in coverage, and then he had the 11 interception year that kind of put him on the map. Now he's kind of settled back in and become a shutdown corner. So I think that this year is going to be really telling on what his value is going to be, because right now you could go a couple different directions on what that value would look like from a front office standpoint.
Right. I think something I saw today on Twitter was roughly around 4 years, 81, 82, 83 million, something like that is what they were projecting his deal to look like. But yeah, you're definitely right. You know, you play well for the Cowboys, everybody's going to take notice. You have a big season, you have 11 interceptions, you have 20 sacks. You know, you're going to be a household name for the average NFL fan. And another average or a household name, I guess I should say, and somebody we're divided on this podcast is Dak Prescott. I love him. You know, I see his mistakes and I make the excuses, but I think he's primed for a really a big year, especially if he can stay healthy. I mean, I think when he was healthy and playing at his peak and playing very well, I think that's a very underrated peak. And I think if he can get back to that or just get back on that track, I think this is the year to do it if he can stay healthy, especially with Brandon Cooks, like you said, Michael Gallup kind of settling in and filling out that wide receiver 3 role. I think this is the year to do it. So what are you expecting from Dak this year? And how's the temperature with Cowboys Nation? Is anybody getting tired of Dak?
I mean,
I think
Cooper last year.
Yeah, I think it's split, kind of like what you just talked about on the podcast. I think you guys are a pretty good representation of how the nation sees Dak Prescott. For the most part, Cowboys fans still believe in him, and I think there is a lot of respect for Dak, and not only what he's been through off the field, but what he's done for this franchise on the field. And he's shown that he can lead a double-digit win season, and he can really be an impact player when need be and put up the numbers that you would want from an elite quarterback. It's the consistency and it's taking care of the football that he's got to get back to. And he hasn't had either one of those things really the last couple years, either by injury or just by the turnover bug. Last year, it wasn't injury. Yeah, he missed a couple weeks in the early parts of the year, and Cooper Rush did a great job through the first 2 months of the season to keep this team afloat. But after that, it turned into interceptions and it turned into turnovers. And those were things that Dak has really been good at throughout his career, is taking care of the football. So I think that's the number one thing for this offense this year. They don't want to go back to the same offense. They didn't feel like it was completely broken either, though. And I talked to Mike McCarthy today about it a little bit, and that was kind of his message, is that, yes, Kellen Moore and what we had offensively and what we built around Dak Prescott has been a great thing to see over the years and the way it's developed, but there's still a way that he needs to take a step forward and really reach that peak, and they believe they can do that behind Dak. And I think this front office has that same kind of confidence, and the team in the locker room absolutely have that same kind of confidence. It's just whether or not the fans buy in the same way that the guys in the building have done, and trying to build around Dak and what he's shown from a leadership standpoint and a quarterback standpoint throughout his career.
You think? I don't know by what standards. Let's say he has a pretty down year, interception totals high again. Cowboys either first round exit, don't make the playoffs. Do you think there's a chance Dallas could move on from a year from now, or do you think it's still ways?
Man, it would take a lot to move on. I think it would have to be pretty close to an absolute train wreck. Like that's kind of what it would have to look like. It would have to be, like you said, league high interceptions. I think you would have to miss the playoffs for you to move on from number 4.
He's just one of those quarterbacks. He's not an issue. He's a good quarterback, but is he good enough is just the question. He's good enough to get the playoffs, but can he lead them deep enough in the playoffs? And obviously with Dallas Cowboy fans, there's only one thing they want, and it's not one playoff win.
No doubt. And he's now got a couple, which is nice. He got one at least this year to at least make it feel a little bit better. But yeah, I think there is the thing with Dak is you've seen glimpses. You've seen bits and pieces of it, but you got to put it all together and you got to keep it consistent. Mm-hmm. The playoff game that he won against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers might have been one of his better games of his career, not just playoff-wise, but maybe of his entirety in the NFL. But you didn't follow that up against San Francisco the same way. You didn't play that way against the 49ers in the divisional round, and if you would have, from a quarterback standpoint, I think your team would have been in a better spot. You may not have won that game. San Francisco really played a great game against Dallas, but you would have at least had a chance. And San Francisco really took it to the Cowboys in that divisional round game, to the point where Dak did kind of start to press the issue. Then the turnovers happened, and then by that point, you were so far behind the 8 ball, you really couldn't make a move. So, yeah, I think there is a chance for him to really take a team to the next level. But the Cowboys and Cowboys fans are waiting to finally see that next step, and you got to find a way to put it all together and keep it consistent.
I do want to say that Cooper Rush, I think was one of the more underrated deals for how well he did. He kept that team afloat for a few weeks. To get him for 2 years, $6 million, that was a steal for quality backup quarterback. In case Dak has had injuries in the past, something happens, it's still a playoff team with Cooper Rush.
Yeah, I think this is a team.
I mean, they're not going far with Cooper Rush, but still.
He's at least shown he can keep it afloat. I think that's the best way to do it. Now he did. I mean, he went 4-1. I think it was 4-2. I can't remember right off the top. But I mean, he had 4 wins as a quarterback last year in relief, and so he can win games at the NFL level. Now, just how deep they can go from a playoff standpoint, I think Dak by far is the better quarterback there. But you've seen now that there is, I mentioned the cohesion earlier with Dan Quinn and Micah Parsons. I think now you can see that there's really not a whole lot of drop-off between Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott. That's a tight-knit quarterback room. And I think even the new rule with the emergency quarterback really helps out the Cowboys because they have Will Grier on the roster as well, and they're very confident. And Mike McCarthy has talked about his confidence level in Will Grier before. So now that you could possibly have all 3 of those guys available on game day, if something were to arise where both guys, Dak Prescott, Cooper Rush, both get injured and they aren't available to continue, they even have a 3rd guy on the roster that they could have put on the chin strap, get out there, and try and lead the team to a win.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're talking a lot about Dak Prescott. I don't mean to talk about him too much because this is an entire football team. There's a 53-man roster. Sometimes NFL fans get bogged down just talking about quarterbacks, but like Trevor said, this podcast is divided on the Dak Prescott question. Mm-hmm. And I just want to kind of gauge where you're at. Where would you put him? Do you think top 10, top 5? Where do you have him?
I'd say he's borderline top 10. I think he's like right on the outskirts of the top 10. If he has a great year, I could maybe push him up close to the top 5, but I don't think he's even sniffing the top 5 at the moment. I think, without going through everybody, I'd say anywhere from like 8 to 13 or 14 on
Okay.
His range overall. I think he's a great quarterback. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, and I think you could win with a quarterback like Dak. I still think Jalen Hurts showed that the style of play from quarterback can vary, and I
Hmm.
think Dak plays a style of football that can carry over depending on it can carry over to a couple different elements of your football team, and this team's built around him. So I think he's good enough to do it. Now, is he good enough to do it by himself? I don't think so. I think he's shown already that he needs some help around him in order to get the job done.
Okay.
I know you just mentioned Philly. Obviously, favorite to win the division. Do you think Dallas is ready to take on Philly this year, or
Yeah, I think so. I think they've made the necessary additions to at least have a conversation with Philly. I mean, you think about it, this NFC East is so unpredictable. I mean,
Yeah.
the way that it's played out, I mean, there has not been a repeat champion of the NFC East since the 03-04 seasons, and that was when Philadelphia did it with Donovan McNabb. Like that was the last time a team, an organization has won this division back-to-back years. So, I think to chalk it up for Philly is maybe it's a little premature because you got to play the games. You play the games for the reason. I think New York is going to be good again this year. I don't even think Washington's that far off. I think they may be a quarterback away from being decent as well. So it will be another cutthroat year in the NFC East, and I think Dallas is ready for that challenge. But if you had to pick a team, just how Philly this past year was built to beat Dallas, now Dallas is trying to build to beat Philly, and that's just kind of how it goes whenever you do win the division. Teams put a target on your back and want to come after you, and that's exactly what Philadelphia has now. I think they have a target on their back, and Dallas is trying to best that by bolstering their weapons outside and trying to get the football out quickly to try and avoid some of that pass rush. I think another part of it is you're trying to beat San Francisco because you've lost to them twice in a row in the
Yeah.
playoffs. So
yeah.
not even in your division, you're still looking at trying to make a run in the playoffs. And if you're going to do that, you're probably going to have to go through either San Francisco or Philly. And Dallas is keeping that in mind when they're roster building for sure.
So what do you got for their
Just
final record prediction this season for Dallas?
Oh, man. Final record. That's tough. I think expecting double-digit wins is doable. I think getting up to 12 wins again is tough. They've done it back-to-back years, and the Cowboys haven't won 12 or more games in back-to-back years since Barry Switzer was the head coach back in the 90s. So it had been a while since they'd had that kind of consistency and success. So I think 12-5 would be the easy answer. I'll say 11-6. I think they get close to that. I think they do make another playoff run at least. I don't think they'll win the division. I think they'll probably drop some games within the division, but this could always change. I mean, things do change in the NFL. It's a week by
Absolutely.
week basis for sure. But I think right this second, I think they're good enough to make the playoffs. But I think this is a team that's going to see some growing pains, but be better whenever it counts. Whenever the playoffs do come around.
Okay.
right. And with just this division, like even looking further out past the division, just the NFC as a whole last year, there was the Eagles, dominating, and then underneath them was just like a bunch of other teams. Like there wasn't a clear cut number two. So like, I mean,
Niners
really,
fifth.
all the other teams in the NFC aren't that far away from, you get hot at the right time, you end up in the Super Bowl. I don't think anybody would be that surprised.
Yeah. Well, and you also look at the quarterback position through the NFC.
Yeah.
Who's the best quarterback in the NFC right now? I think it's pretty darn wide open, especially with Aaron Rodgers no longer in the fold. I mean, it's Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, and that's odd for me to say, but I mean, name another NFC quarterback
Jared
right now.
Goff. Put some respect on his name.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Like, and hey, the Lions hype is real. The Lions might be pretty darn good this year, but until they prove it the way that these other teams have, I think they're up in the air. Maybe Trey Lance finally has his come out year. Who knows? Maybe Jordan Love is the real deal in Green Bay. But right this second, when you look at the NFC, it appears wide open, and I think that's what was disappointing most about the Cowboys' run last year. Is you beat Tom Brady, you felt like you were okay. We just got through Tom. Now we're facing Brock Purdy and this San Francisco team, and then we might have to see Jalen Hurts in the championship game. It was wide open last year. I think it's going to be just as wide open this year, and it's going to make for some fun football. But man, it's going to be stressful, of course, whenever it gets deeper into the year.
Absolutely.
All right, Zach, you got it.
So I have 2 questions for you. The first one, Trevor didn't ask it, but I'm going to. Obviously, a lot of storied rivalries in this division.
Mhm.
Out of all the teams in the NFC East, which team do Cowboys fans as a whole, and maybe you in particular, dislike the most?
Philly.
Philly?
For me,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's Philly. I mean, my football fandom really started beginning in the early 2000s, and I mean, I grew up a Cowboys fan, and I'm just fortunate to work for the team that I grew up cheering for. But man, I mean, yeah, I've always had a vendetta against Philly. I just never really have liked them. I really don't like their fans for the most part. I think they're terrible. But I think it's interesting because it depends on what generation of Cowboys fans you talk to, because you talk to some of the older Cowboys fans, the veteran Cowboys fans, they're probably going to say Washington. They do not like the Washington organization, and maybe like right before me, you would say the Giants, because the Giants kind of kicked our butts a little bit in there too. But I just remember Terrell Owens and the Eagles and teams like that. Maybe recently, if you were going to talk about a team recently, it'd be either the Eagles or the 49ers. Those would kind of be the two. But
Okay.
it's split between them all. But for me, for sure, it's definitely Philly.
It's the
That's
Eagles.
number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and then
Have you seen, oh, go ahead.
my last question. I've asked this to every guest over the past 2 years that we've had on the show. My Jaguars obviously coming off a surprising year. Definitely a big upgrade from our previous year. We don't have to talk about that one too much. But what do you see the Jaguars doing this year in terms of record?
Man, I like the Jags. I do. I like
Let's
the Jags.
go.
You got some young talent. I've always been a fan of Trevor Lawrence. I think he's the real deal, man. So I think you showed it last year against LA. You showed it against the Chargers in the fact that you came back the way that you did. I mean, that showed the peak ability of this Jags team. So I think there's a youth element, there's an excitement element. It's kind of like the Lions in the same sense.
Yeah.
Like they feel pretty good, but
It's
the
kind of
Jags are
weird
way
because
better
it
than
was
the
like we were 1-2 at the draft last year, and we ended up with Trayvon Walker. They ended up with Aiden Hutchinson. Still don't love the fact that we took Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. I was really pulling for Aiden
Hutchinson's a
Hutchinson.
dude. He's a dude.
Yeah,
He's a
he
dude.
is.
I still think Trayvon's still a guy though. Like he's still. Gonna
He
be
is.
pretty
He's
good.
just unpolished. And so
Yeah.
that was the big question coming in is like, can he turn from the freak athlete that he is into a professional football player?
I don't know. This might be overzealous. Who knows? I think if Jacksonville ended up with 12 or 13 wins this year, I don't know if I'd be shocked. I really don't think I'd be shocked. I think they're good enough to start winning now.
Listen, my heart just grew 3 sizes like the Grinch. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
they're pretty darn good, and we've got them in the preseason. Thank goodness we don't see them in the regular season. We've got them in the preseason for our opener. I'll get the call that game, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
But man, that's a good team for sure.
I love that
And an
answer.
easy division too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but see, and that's kind of the reason.
That's
like,
the best
who else-
part.
Yeah, who else is going to take them down in that division? Like a rookie quarterback, another rookie quarterback, and then, I mean,
The ghost of Tannehill.
yeah,
Goes
look, I
to
mean,
Ryan Tannehill.
yeah. Davis Mills going to run the table here? No, that's not going to happen. We're going to probably shove all those quarterbacks into the fire way too early, and then it's going to be just easy pickings for Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. Go Jags.
There you go. You've gone through it enough. You
Yes,
deserve
we've
to
been
win.
through enough.
Yeah.
We had Urban Meyer as a head coach in the NFL.
Now it's our turn to go through it because we've gone through it in the playoffs. You've gone through it really all together, so good luck.
Alrighty. Trevor, you were going to ask something before I...
Oh, I did. When we were talking about how much you disliked Philly, I was wondering if you've seen Michael Parsons at the Sixers games wearing the Sixers jerseys. How you feel about
see,
that?
I don't hate Philly like as a city. I just don't like Philadelphia Eagles fans and the organization. Because I mean, yeah, it's the Sixers, and like I mean, I don't really care about the Sixers. I mean, I don't cheer for them, of course. Same thing with
Wasn't he
like, the
wearing
Flyers.
someone else's shirt though too?
What was that?
Wasn't he wearing another NBA team shirt like the day after or something?
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah. It might have just been he was at like courtside at a game, but he's been courtside at Mavs games all the time. Like he comes all the time. I wasn't too bothered by it. No deal, no big deal, anyways.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. You want to plug yourself again before you head out? Where they can find
Yeah, at Kyle_Youmans, the Talking Cowboys podcast, draft show podcast in the off season. And then keep up to date, DallasCowboys.com and all the Cowboys social channels. You'll see me on there quite a bit. So, yeah, TV host for the team. And so excited to get back after it and get ready for the 23 season, guys.
100 days to go.
Crazy. That's
100
wild.
days.
All right. Good luck to you and your Cowboys this year.
All right.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks
you
for
guys
coming
for
back
having me. Yeah, of course.
Alrighty.
Harry, did you ask him if he wanted to plug himself? What does that mean?
It's
Oh,
just
what?
about where they can find you, like your socials and everything.
Zach did not get
not
that.
actually plug himself.
Only Trevor would think that.
Yeah. It's because
Come
Trevor's used to
on.
plugging himself. Okay,
It's a
so we have
Friday
two more
night. I
teams
had
to
2
cover.
beers.
We have 2 more teams to cover. I have 1
Do we
beer
wanna-
left.
Do we want to do the boring one or the good one?
Let's
Let's
do
do the
the
Eagles, but I
good
don't
one,
wanna
and then
talk
we'll
for a
finish on the boring.
All right. Philadelphia Eagles. I feel like everybody has them as favorite in the NFC. Obviously in the Super Bowl. The real question is Jalen Hurts going to be the guy he was last year?
Bro, I already called it last season. Jalen Hurts, big step forward, okay? He's going to stay right where he is this year. He is going to be a
gonna be
good
trouble.
quarterback. Probably a little bit overrated, but that's okay because he's winning games.
That's fair. I feel like he's going to be up there in the level. I just don't. I feel like you always see these quarterbacks have 1 year they go off and they never get to that level again. Like Lamar Jackson's MVP season. We've never seen him hit that level again.
This
Right.
podcast is so weird. 2 years ago, that would have been me saying that.
I know.
And now Gary's saying it.
The only person that sticks to their guns is me, bro.
No, you're the only person that refuses to change despite evidence to the contrary.
Right. Zach Wilson is elite. I honestly think that it's the Eagles division to lose, but I
Yeah.
for real think the Cowboys are going to be challenging them this year. Whatever they.
Cowboys, they're always good.
Yeah,
But
it'll
challenging
be.
them for the division.
I still think it's
Challenging
the
them for the
Eagles
best team in the
division.
NFC.
I don't think the Cowboys challenge it that much. By the way, we didn't give our predictions for the first 2. I think around 11-6, 10-7 is about where the Cowboys are going to finish this year. They're going to be good, not great, in a wide open NFC. The Giants, I see finishing it around that same area.
Really?
Yeah.
Bro's changed a lot since last year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Dallas goes 11-6, and I'm gonna put the Giants maybe like 9-8, 10-7.
Okay.
Somewhere there. I feel like it was just a lucky season last year for the Giants. They got a lot of close wins, easy schedule. I think they're good. I just don't think they're great by any means.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good take. What about you, Trevor?
I mean, he says
got-
he's going to the Super Bowl, so obviously.
I got 12 wins for the Dallas Cowboys, 12-13 for Philadelphia, and then I'll give the Giants like 8.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give the Giants. Oh, I already said that one. For Philly,
We even talked about Philly.
I'm saying 12 wins.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 12. I feel like they'll take a little step back, but still be probably the best.
I don't
team
even
yet.
necessarily think it's a step back. I just think they lose a close game.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like, again, who else is there in the NFC? I mean, if the Niners had a quarterback, obviously they'd be front runners.
They have
but
Sam Darnold now. Don't sleep.
I heard he was
Yeah.
doing well in practice.
that is
He always
practice.
does, though.
How many quarterbacks have done well in practice?
Apparently, Nathan Peterman did well in practice. I don't understand how, but he
Um,
somehow got the job over Josh Allen at one point.
But really, like, an offense, mainly Eagles bring it back the same core.
Yep.
They did lose Miles Sanders, but they brought in DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. I really like Penny as like a breakout candidate this year.
Yeah.
But Trevor mentioned, I mean, if somehow DeAndre Hopkins goes there, that is just a scary lineup.
Yeah, that offense is disgusting if Hopkins ends up going there.
They had a very good draft class too.
Yeah. Everyone from the University of Georgia is now a Philadelphia Eagle.
Like, to get Jalen, what did they get? Carter at 10 or 9?
10.
10.
They got some great picks in that draft.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith. I mean, they did lose some guys, obviously.
Who's their RB1?
It's either Swift or Penny. I think it's going to be Swift.
Oh, Swift. I forgot all about that.
I feel like he'd stay healthy there, too, with how good their line is. Like,
I don't know. That guy's like made of, cheap
And he's gonna-
plastic.
I mean, he's going to have some... But he's not... Like, with their offense, he's not going to get that many carries. Like, they're going to use Gainwell, all these other guys also.
That's true.
And with Hurt.
Boston Scott.
I mean,
Boston Scott.
do you think this... Obviously, they had a great draft. But they did lose guys in the defense. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Javon Hargrave, T.J. Edwards, Kaiser White. So they lost a few good starters on their defense. You
Who's
think
Kaiser White?
It's Kazir,
Kazir?
but
Oh.
carries white, so.
Yeah. Him and Edwards are their starting linebackers last year. They lost, I think, four or five starters from last year in defense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, they did a great draft, but is this going to be as dominant defense as it was last year?
Probably not. Just being honest. Especially not for the whole year. Granted, they didn't play well in the Super Bowl, so maybe this is good.
They just couldn't stop Kelsey and Mahomes, dude.
Where do you guys have Goddard in your top tight ends?
But come on, bro. What?
Is he top 4?
No. Kyle Pitts is better.
You have no real takes.
I'm going to
Even-
say Dallas Goddard number 6.
I was
Oh,
gonna put
really?
5.
I
I'm
feel
going to
like
put Schultz at 5, Goddard at 6.
Schultz? What are you doing?
Yes.
This
I
man's
have,
a
like-
Dallas Cowboys fan at heart.
I have like Hawkinson.
That's his
Freiermuth.
new team because the Bucks have Baker Mayfield.
No, my new team is the Dolphins. And the Bengals and the Ravens.
Fairweather fan. He's a Fairweather fan.
I like players more than I like teams, man. I'm not going to sit here and cry over Baker Mayfield. I'm not going to let Baker Mayfield stress me out this year.
You did
Bro
that
does
last
not.
year. You're not doing it again.
Poor guy.
Alrighty.
All right, we got anything else in the Eagles you guys want to talk about?
Do you
Ready
guys
to fall.
think? So we talked about it a little bit, but I mean, obviously, Swift. I mean, this was a big talking point on this podcast last year, at least. I mean, y'all made a bet about it. Can he stay
Yeah,
healthy?
Kerry gets to repair my ACL now.
Can he stay healthy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he will just because they're not going to force feed him. I think Penny will be their number 1 guy.
That's the thing, though. They didn't force feed him last year, and he still got hurt.
But it's the Eagles, though. Like, who gets touches in that offense?
Everybody.
Exactly. Like, Boston Scott, Gainwell, all these guys are going to get a couple touches a game, and then Hurts is run the ball 15 times a game, whatever. Like, how many touches is Swift going to get? Like, maybe 5 carries, few targets? I don't think he's going to be getting crazy. No.
You think he's going to get 5 carries a game?
Yeah. Is that crazy?
I think he'll get more than that.
Do we have a bet?
That he'll average 5 carries a game on the season?
Over under. I'll turn it to 5.5 just because.
I don't care enough to bet on that, though. Like,
Aw, come on,
he has
Gary.
like 7 carries.
You can put it at 6.5, 7.5, dude.
Okay. What about that, Kerry? Do you like those odds better?
I'll take 7.
7.5
So 6.5.
or 6.5?
If you say it higher, I'll take higher. But I'll take 6 or 7. 6.5 or
Okay.
7.
Then I'll take over 6.5.
And Kerry
I also-
take it under.
Yeah.
All right. The betting book is out, boys. What's the bet for?
Zach, I offered to make Trevor a bet this weekend for $500 that we would not see the Dolphins and the Cowboys in the Super Bowl, and he would not take it.
That's
Because
because
he doesn't
it's not
believe in what he's
even
saying.
like that. You're betting on 15 teams. I'm betting on one
believe
team. I'm not
it's
going to
gonna
bet
happen.
$500.
And bet on it. You don't believe it. It's going to happen. That's
There you
why.
go.
No,
Odds.
make the
You have to
bet
consider
500.
odds.
Make the bet
I
50 to
was trying-
1. If Kerry
What?
wins,
Exactly.
he gets 10. If Trevor wins, he gets 500.
I tried explaining them to this concept and they slurred at me.
You don't believe enough in your own thing.
No,
If
it's
you-
just you're betting on 15 teams to reach the Super Bowl. I'm betting on one team. There's no way we should be putting up the same
You
amount of
only
money.
put $10 on it because you don't even believe in it. You don't think that the Cowboys and the Dolphins are going to be in the Super Bowl.
I
won't
think the
even-
Cowboys have a great shot at being in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's the NFC, bro.
No, you literally said this is happening like 3 times this offseason already.
It is happening.
You just said they have a great shot, not that it's happening.
Both things can be true, brother. You think they're going to go there if they got a bad shot?
Well,
I love this. Keep going. Keep going. You're not done yet.
Pro is lost emotionally.
Justin Herbert sucks, too, bro.
What are we talking about? I was going to ask about Justin Herbert, how he thought Kellen Moore, but I knew that would send Trevor on a tangent. I didn't want to listen to it.
Oh, the Cowboys guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should have asked him.
Can Kellen Moore make Justin Herbert a real
Can't
quarterback?
find the bet book. This might be bad.
They already lost 2 weeks in the off.
I'll
writing
just
on the
record
wall.
it on this piece of paper. It'll be fine. I'll find it.
Gary owes me $500.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, we want to head on to the last team in the division.
I'm not going to lie, bro. I have, like, nothing to say about Washington, but I'll try.
Who's their quarterback?
Exactly. Sam Howell. Do we think Sam Howell? Or are they tanking? The problem
They
is,
should
like,
have got Lamar.
this is a good team if they had a good quarterback. Like, even if you put, like, Dak on this team, this is probably a playoff team.
If you put Zach on the team?
Dak.
Oh.
Like, this is a good defense.
Or Zach. I mean, either works. Okay, or Trevor, where'd your video go?
I'm peeing in the living room.
Okay, well.
Zach, do you have any high expectations for Sam Howell? I mean, your other buddy, Jacoby Brissett's on there, so maybe he gets a shot.
Jacoby's a better bet than Sam Howell. What was your bet for?
6.5 carries for DeAndre Swift.
No, for what?
I don't know, $25.
Okay,
The loser has to slice their ACO.
no.
Yeah, probably not.
I'm
no.
down for $25. Yeah, that's like 2 or 3 Chipotle trips.
There you go.
That's 2.5 Chipotle trips.
I mean, Chipotle may have raised their prices the last time I've been there.
They do every time.
Capitalism. You guys want to talk about it? Profit?
Yeah, on the new podcast.
Barely life.
And it's like it's Beerly in the font that we have now, and then like the life, like from the game logo.
Barely life. Barely politics.
No, I'm not doing politics, dude. Fuck that.
We could all do like some really hard drugs and then talk about politics with each other.
Or we could just do really hard drugs and
Ayahuasca.
talk about random shit. I'd rather do that than
Or we could
politics specifically.
Not let down our one Commander fan listener that cares out there. Johnny.
Okay.
I love you, Johnny.
Carrie, what do you... Okay, so we're going to restart this whole thing. Carrie, ask me the question about Sam Howell again.
Zach, do you think Sam Howell's actually could be the guy in Washington?
Dude, anything can happen. But no.
not that.
Anything can happen, but no. I
You
think
look kinda-
Jacoby Brissett has a better chance of leading this team to the playoffs than Sam Howell does.
Do you think they're better off bringing back Wentz again?
Honestly,
I don't. Yeah.
I don't hate that.
Carson Wentz is an Arizona Cardinal.
They almost made the playoffs with Wentz and Heineke last year. Like, do we all have them the fourth in the division?
Yes.
I might.
I wish I could put him fifth.
I could see them having a better record than the Giants, but they would need Sam
Really?
Howell. Sam Howell has to be like a competent quarterback, and he just. I mean, did you guys see much of his tape from that one game last year?
No,
The one game he started?
because you know how much hype was generated around Sam Howell taking his first snap as a starter in the NFL.
Like 20 tweets on Twitter.
No, there were 0 tweets. I checked.
Hey, he can run. I think he had a lot of rushing yards. I know
Did he?
that, but I don't know. He's probably the biggest unknown in the. I don't know. Is Baker and Trask more unknown?
I think that Indianapolis Colts situation is more unknown, honestly.
I did see today that both Richardson and Minshew were getting first team reps already. Or Minshew.
I've heard that they're going to start Richardson week 1.
I feel like they will, 100%.
They're just
Gotta
going
let him cook.
to... Yeah, like you cook a chicken in the oven.
Why is it gonna be chicken?
Because it's my favorite bird meat.
Obviously. All right, Chase Young. Is he nearing toward bust level? I mean, what has he done in the last?
I wouldn't call it bust level. He's struggled with injury.
Should they resign him? I mean, this is the last.
If I was Washington, I wouldn't resign him.
Do you
But
think
I
he's
don't
ever?
think he's a bust.
I would.
Do you think he'll ever reach his potential?
Not here.
I mean, like
I don't see why.
you look at that front lineup. If Chase Young can get back to what he was like his rookie season, Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Montez Sweat, they have one of the best front sevens in probably the NFL. Like, they're kind of weak in the secondary, but like on paper, the defense is pretty good for this team.
That's
But
the
they're also-
problem, Kerry. On paper, it was good last year, and you know what it did during the year? It sucked.
Well, it got better as the year goes on went.
They were horrible. I picked them as my defense early.
It
Ish.
got better.
Not really early. First off, I'm not an idiot. I don't pick like defenses early.
Everyone is sleeping on this team too much. Trevor's half asleep. Like, this team, how many games did they miss the playoff?
Bro, this team is melatonin.
They almost made the playoff last year.
This team is melatonin.
They're not that bad. They would win the AFC South if they were in the AFC South. Mark my words.
Kerry, I don't even know why you said mark my words. That shit's just not going to happen. Mark my words.
They have a better
In
team.
an alternate reality, this year they would win the AFC. Mark my words. Kerry, that's the dumbest thing you have ever said. They would
Commanders
get
are better.
smoked by the Jaguars.
Commanders are a better team than the Jaguars. Get ready for the Jaguars to fall apart this season.
Bro,
Ready.
oh god.
Wait for the AFC South.
I'm loving this because it's exactly the same shit you said last year. And now I'm mad. I'm fucking angry.
That's all I wanted.
Alrighty. Trevor! Instead of starting the show with a game, we're going to end the show with a game. Do you have a game for us tonight?
Wait, we need a record prediction.
Oh, yeah, for the Commanders.
I'm going to say 9. 9-8. So
Bro,
crazy.
it's, I got 5-11.
Bro,
Or
hates
5-12. Or 6-11. I'll go 6-11.
I'm going 5-12, brother.
Sure, brother.
I know a hot girl that lives out there in Washington. I met her in Nashville when I had a girlfriend, so we couldn't really. But
This is a
yeah,
football
5 wins for
podcast.
the. Sorry, 5 wins for the Commanders.
Trevor's about to start crying.
Back when I had a girlfriend.
All right. Did you have a game, Trevor, or no? If not, are.
Yeah. Man. Okay. So the starter is gonna be 1 point, the second string is gonna be 2 points, and the third string quarterback is gonna be 3 points.
Bro does not have a game.
Can you guys tell me the quarterbacks that were on the roster of the 2009 Philadelphia Eagles?
What? I'm gonna go starter.
Kevin Cole.
3 points. Zach, that means you gotta get 1 and 2 and you gotta get them quick.
Really?
I'm I'm gonna go Nick Foles, Michael Vick.
Michael Vick is the backup, so that's 2 points. Who's getting the starter?
Damn it.
Wait, was Kevin Cole the starter or the third string?
He's the third
He was the
string.
third string.
Wait, so he was the backup. God, who did they draft? I remember Nick
It was like
Foles.
the only guy that Michael Vick would be backing up.
McNabb?
McNabb.
He's still there.
Really? I thought he was gone by 09.
2009.
Damn it.
Can't believe we got Kevin Cole.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that game. That's all.
Are you serious?
Gary won. Yeah.
Great game, Trevor.
I'm going
Thanks,
to take
Gary
over the
won.
game spot for next
Gary won
week because this is
42.
horrible.
Yes.
Kerry won the last ever Trevor game. Wow.
It was a great game. Why? I don't know why you expect him to think of a good games.
I don't know
Well,
why
I was gonna do like different quarterback rooms for like every team in this division, but then I thought you guys didn't want to do it because we didn't have enough time. So I just wrote down the Eagles, and I was like, I'm not writing down the rest. But I guess I probably should have.
Next time, bud.
Alrighty.
All right, rapid fire then.
Rapid fire.
Wait, should we all
Rapid fire.
just repeat our final NFC East standings records?
I got Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, kind of here. And then on the floor, through the bottom story of this house, are the Washington Red Commanders.
Wow.
I get
I
the
really wanted to say the R word.
Eagles, 12 wins. Cowboys, 11 wins. Giants, 9. I almost said it too. Commanders, 9. Do we
Do we gotta
canceled?
say the wins?
Do we get canceled if we say Redskins?
Kerry.
Oh, what? Stop! No!
I got the Sixers, Mavericks, Knicks, and Wizards. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Shut up.
Great. As always.
Philly, Dallas, New York, and then Washington.
I think we all agree except for New York and Washington. I have them flipped.
I can't believe
You
you
don't,
flipped.
you don't believe in Sam Howell. I believe in Sam Howell. I really don't, but you know.
I feel like
All
you're
right,
just
You guys want
being
to play
doing
Madden
it.
sometime?
Shut up.
Do you?
All right, rapid fire time. I don't want to listen to your nonsense anymore.
Wait, for this whole segment, I'm gonna try and use a radio voice. Okay.
I like that.
Oh, can I add something to rapid fire? It's a really good one.
Maybe.
True or false? Do you guys want to play Madden?
Oh,
Absolutely, we could play Madden at any time you want, man.
that's all Zach does.
That's not all I do. Okay. It's not. I am actually very, very busy. I got
Zach-
home at 10:30 the last 2 nights.
Zach
I thought you were
is
gonna say tonight. I was like,
No,
bro,
no,
it's
no, no, no.
10:26.
It's almost 10:30 now. So
Zach's gonna be late for his wedding because he's got the Buffalo Bills in a 2020 Madden franchise. Bro's like, let my generated quarterback
no,
cook.
no.
Double overtime. All right, Kerry.
All right, who's the better wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown or Terry McLaurin?
Gary Terry.
It's got to be Scary Terry.
The Jets. We already did this last week. Never mind.
Gary, get it right.
I know, right? Who's the most underrated player on your favorite team right now? Marcus Jones for the Patriots.
Most underrated player? Ooh.
Does Trevor even have a favorite team to answer this?
Should I just be a Bucks fan for like purposes of like this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Rashad White.
I actually like that pick, Trevor. That's a good one.
Wait, before you answer this, Zach, I have to ask you.
Yeah.
What happened to the Jaguars with Riley Patterson and getting Brandon McManus?
No idea. That was weird. That was really
Patterson's
quite strange.
What is it, like his second or third year?
I think it's his third.
And they take an old guy who's like maybe a little better?
Slightly,
like
at best.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was strange. Anyway, Most underrated guy, obviously best. Yeah, he's the best linebacker in the NFL. It's Foyesade Aluka.
Shocker. All right, you can trade for one player in the Jets. Who are you taking?
Aaron Rodgers.
I'm taking Garrett Wilson.
Sauce Gardner.
Bro got sauce. True or false? These are the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL right now: Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
True.
The drop off of the top 4 is crazy. Also,
Yes,
I don't know
than
why
Butler, yes.
everybody is turned on Josh Allen so much. Everybody hates Josh Allen.
Everybody turned on Josh Allen.
Yes. Everybody thinks he's the most overrated quarterback in the NFL now, and it's just, I don't get it.
They haven't met
It's
Justin
because
Herbert or Trevor Lawrence, I guess.
every NFL fan has, besides us, obviously, has the memory of a goldfish. 2 seconds.
Here's a question Zach's going to love. Who's your favorite Jacksonville Jaguars player of all time?
Gosh.
I like David Garrard. I'm going David Garrard.
That's a good one.
That is a really good one, Kerry.
Who was that
Damn.
really short guy, Zach?
Mike Thomas.
I'm going to say
MJD?
Mike Thomas.
Mike Thomas.
There was some good receivers on that team.
Yeah. Golly. My favorite. I'm gonna say. I think I'm gonna go with MJD. I'm
Bro,
wearing
like
his
the-
jersey.
Can I
No.
go with Josh Scobie, actually?
Josh
This is
Scobie.
America. This is the Beer League Football Podcast. You can choose whoever you want.
Yeah, you can.
Love is
All right.
love.
Name a random wide receiver. Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Tyree Cleveland.
Braxton Berrios.
I like it. Who's the worst coach in the history of your favorite team?
That's so easy. It's Urban
Matt-
Meyer.
Matt Patricia.
He's not a head coach.
I don't care. He sucks.
Todd Bowles kind of been pissing me off lately, so maybe him.
All right. Pick one in their prime. Eric Decker, Adam Thielen, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker.
Wes Welker.
In their prime,
Yeah. I'm taking Welker in the regular season and Edelman in the playoffs.
I'm probably going Thielen.
Who was the first one you said?
Eric Decker,
Decker.
with like one good year. I just needed a 4th white guy to put in there.
Oh, I thought you did it because they all had E in their last name.
Sure.
No, you're lying. I don't believe you. I don't
All
believe
right.
that's actually what you thought. I can't.
True or false? Devin Hester is the greatest return specialist in NFL history.
True, but shout out
Wonder
to
where he
Josh
played.
Jacobs.
Wonder where he
True is
played.
fighting with random people on Twitter about this.
Wait, did someone say he wasn't?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people said
Cordell
No.
or Josh Cribbs?
I said Josh Cribbs was second, and then a bunch of people said, "Oh, Cordell Patterson." Oh,
Are
Josh
you
Cribbs-
guys, bro? Someone's smoking some Zaza, something
No.
fierce. Devin
There's some
Hester, it's
old-
not close.
There's some old guy
no,
who's
I
like,
said Josh Cribbs was second.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that those guys are
Oh.
crazy for putting
There's
Cordarrelle
some-
in this
there's some
conversation.
old-
He is a
old
good
guy.
return guy. He is not Devin Hester.
some old guy was like, he's not top 5. I was like, what? Bro,
What?
You listed off like 5 old people I've never heard of. All right.
Linden Trail.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAndre Hopkins will sign with the blank. Bro's
DeAndre Hopkins, I think.
he's a Chief, sadly, probably.
Honestly, yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm
Coming
gonna
to-
say Chiefs as well.
Trevor?
That brother is a Kansas City Chief. I also saw him at my apartment.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Who will be the most disappointing team in the NFL next season? The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Bro, Kerry, we're about to fight. I'm not lying.
I'm gonna go
the most
LA
disappointing
Chargers.
team in the NFL next year
We've
will
been beating too
be.
much, Zach. I got
I've already said this. It's the Miami Dolphins.
Poor Nando.
LA Chargers.
Who's the better Bills quarterback, Josh Allen or Jim Kelly?
Josh Allen.
Josh Allen. Jim Kelly's white.
Rank them. T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith.
Ooh.
Smith is last. Smith is third.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Higgins,
But
Waddle.
he's still very good.
It's Higgins, Waddle, Smith.
Would you put Ayuk over Smith?
Huh?
No.
No.
Are you Smith over Ayuk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What wide receiver is most likely to have a bounce back season next year? We got
I'm gonna go
like
DeAndre Carter.
OBJ, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Hunter Renfro. I did see a lot of Hunter Renfro to New Orleans Saints trade thoughts lately. So
I like that.
I like that
They
too.
should keep him there though with Jimmy. They got 3 targets over there.
So, let's quick. I don't know if you guys saw about Jimmy G. That he has his ankle problems. That the Raiders could void his contract if he's not healthy by week 1 and not have to pay him, as he didn't pass his physical.
Nice.
So there's question whether Jimmy G will actually even take a snap for the Raiders.
Do you think
Sick.
NFL players' physical is like similar to the ones we had to get in middle school?
No, the physical ones were like in middle school were like, let me cup your balls, cough for me. Okay, you're good.
Yeah. Do you think somebody gets to do that to Jimmy G or no?
Probably.
Probably.
What you want to
He
do
gets paid
that?
for it? That's interesting.
It's been a long time, but I think Michael Thomas actually has a good year this year.
No, it's gonna be Hunter Renfro.
Trevor? Oh, you said some random.
Thomas is a good one because I think Carr and him will match up pretty well.
True. All right, this is Trevor's question. Who's the best second-year player in the NFL right now?
That's not my question. My question was who is the best sophomore in the NFL.
Same thing.
It's
Last year it was
Saucy.
Trevor Lawrence.
I see.
It's Saw. No, it's Woolen.
I'll probably go Woolen.
Ugh. Trevor?
Saucy.
Name a wide receiver better than Tyreek Hill.
Not Justin Herbert.
Wait, are you talking wide receivers or playmakers?
Devontae Adams.
Wide receiver, Justin Jefferson.
No. Devontae Adams, though.
Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I could go for a while.
I just said one. True or false, Aaron Rodgers will have a bounce back season in 2023.
True.
True.
Describe Pat McAfee in one word.
Punter.
Mid.
Didn't he join
TikTok
ESPN?
Did big deal to ESPN. He sold out.
Sold
Can't
out.
cut him.
Freaking sellout.
Hey,
bro.
Purely Faithful will never sell you out like that.
Never.
Never. As long as Trevor's not in charge.
Well, he's not because
Mm.
I'm the owner.
Wow.
Is Tua the long-term answer quarterback in Miami?
Yes.
No.
Not sure yet. Who's your favorite Tennessee Titans player of all time?
My favorite Tennessee Titans player? Probably Chris Johnson.
Logan Ryan.
Derrick Henry.
Cortland Finnegan. Was that his name?
Yeah. The guy that got in the fight with Andre Johnson?
Yeah.
Who'd you rather have on your offense at their peak? Gronk or Antonio Brown?
Antonio Brown.
I'm thinking
Brown.
Gronk
Sadly.
with his blocking.
Peak Antonio Brown.
Harry, shut up about blocking, please. We're talking about prime Gronk, and you're talking about blocking.
Talking about the best tight end of all time that's not named Travis Douchebag Kelsey.
He's a better blocker than Kelsey.
He is. Pick one in their prime. Donovan McNabb, Tony Romo, Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson.
Oh, God.
I'm
Who was the
going
second one?
Give me McNabb.
Romo. I'm going McNabb too. Stafford.
I'll go McNabb as well.
Who's the greatest pass rusher in the history of your favorite team?
Ooh.
Andre Tippett, Patriots.
Ooh, that's tough. Josh Allen.
Already?
It's as far back as I can think. I've only been a fan since high school.
Trevor, do you know anything about the Bucks?
Well, sack-wise, it's actually Shaquille Barrett, statistic-wise. Warren Sapp was a good one, but he was a, DT. It's hard to get sacks that way.
Yeah.
I'm just going to plead the fifth right now. Just say
Sure.
next question.
All right, one NFL player do you want to see win a Super Bowl before they retire? Khalil Mack, Julio Jones, Calais Campbell, Hopkins, Patterson, Zach Martin, and any
It's
others?
easy for me. Trevor Lawrence.
I like to see
Foyesade Aluakun, actually. I'd love to see him get a Super Bowl. He deserves it. Best linebacker in the NFL.
I like to see Julio Jones win a ring.
I want to see Lamar get a ring. That would be crazy.
Speaking of Lamar, true or false? Michael Vick better than Lamar.
True.
True.
False.
Who's the best player under 25 years old in the NFL right now?
Trevor Lawrence.
Micah Parsons.
I don't know how old everybody is in the NFL, so
Like Jamar Chase, Sauce Gardner, Tristan Wirfs, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts.
Jefferson.
Wait, so Jefferson's better than Chase?
No.
That's what you just said.
No, I didn't. I said he's the best player under 25.
All right.
Don't put words in my mouth, Gary.
All right. I had a couple more, but I accidentally clicked out. So I can't put that.
Wait, what?
I accidentally clicked out of Twitter and lost my space. So that's it.
So scroll back to it, Carrie. Come on.
There's a couple left. That's so much effort.
All right.
Too much effort.
Well, that's all we have for the Beerly Football Podcast this week. You guys want to plug anything before we head out?
Do make sure to follow us on Twitter at Beerly Football. We also got another hot podcast at the Beerly Sports Network, just in time for the finals in two other sports. We got the Beerly Hoops podcast. Check them out on everywhere you can find podcasts and Twitter at Beerly Hoops, and then the Beerly Hockey as well. Beerly Hockey podcast.
This Beerly
Gary,
Hoops
shut up! And then follow them on Twitter at Beerly Hockey.
You have a podcast, bro?
Well, as they are in the Stanley Cup Finals between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Fort Lauderdale Panthers. So that's all I got.
Follow me on Twitter, Beerly Carey. Follow Beerly Baseball. We don't have a podcast, but I tweet stuff, so why not?
And of course, you can always follow me at Beerly Zach. Might change my name to Zach Stradamus on Twitter. If you want to know everything before it happens, make sure you follow me there. And you can, like I said, know everything before it happens. Thank you, everyone, for watching the Beerly Football Podcast. It's been lovely having you here today. Thank you again to our guests. What?
Check it out. If you want to see our beautiful faces, check us out on YouTube at Beerly Sports.
There you go. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, anywhere you can find your podcast, make sure you check us out on YouTube. You can see our beautiful faces as well as the faces of our beautiful guests. And we'll see you guys next time. See ya.